I'm guessing that your area here is no different. So I wanted to be sure that you are super familiar with the medicinal properties of the plants as we go through them. Greg asked me to come and talk about using how to integrate seasonal herbs into your life. And I took that as meaning several different opportunities for teaching. And I ended up with really getting interested in trying to sequence the herbs that I see in the gardens around at school that you might see here, and the sequence that I flow through my year as an herbalist and as a medicine maker. California poppy's early in our school year because we come down into this area and it's blooming already. It blooms a little bit later up in our area. California poppy is the state flower, so pick it on your friend's backyard, in your own backyard. Don't be picking it out it's illegal to pick it, other than to grow it and to pick it yourself. The plant is used as a whole plant medicine for sedation, for helping to calm, and it works as an analgesic, so it reduces pain and induces sleep. It's actually very safe for children as well. One of my teachers, because this is what you get when you get into herbalism, is you get into a legacy of teachers. And what's happening now here in San Luis Obispo is a real uprising of people who want to be taught, people who know about herbs. And the association that you're forming now is going to bring all of those elements together so that there will be generations of teachers in this area as well. One of my teachers would talk about California poppy as being perfect for children who have been too long at the fair. They're kind of running around with, kind of glowing in the dark. And you give them just a few drops of California poppy tincture, which is an extraction that you can make. And they just kind of, in my experience, is it. They just kind of tip over. You're just kind of like, oh, okay, I'm done. And this works well. Yes?
Did you say it was the whole plant you make the tincture out of?
I make it from the whole plant. A lot of the herbals will talk just about the aerial parts being used. But I say don't be scared. Use the whole plant. It's the same color as a carrot. And you pick it just now, at this stage, when it's in bloom. And it has a great amount of aerial parts, above ground parts, and it has a skinny little taproot. And so dig down, get that whole thing, take off the parts you don't want. That's called garbling in herb talk. We have a separate language. So you're going to garble your herbs, means you're going to take apart the stuff that's spent, that doesn't look as good, that's got a bug on it. There's bugs out there, folks. You have to make decisions when you pick plants. Are you into the bug or are you not into the bug? Do you want the snail trail on it or not? Or are you going to wash it? And you make those decisions so that you can feel good about your medicine, just as you feel good about the food that you grow. Next slide. For me, the school year kind of marks my year beginning. However, the small greens that we're going to go through now are really at the beginning of the year. They're really happening now. They start getting really happy as soon as it starts raining. Are you listening? No, we're really desperate for rain. So the small greens are the first thing. The small greens teach us that we need to go through a whole growth cycle with the plants in order to be able to identify them the next year. Excuse me, I've got a lozenge. You want to see the plantain, when it looks like this, so you can look at it and you can go, plantain, got it. Veins going from base to tip. This silly little flower head with no, leaves on the stem whatsoever. This is that herb that's the great toy. This is the one you teach to your kids, where they pick the stem when it's green down here, wrap it around the flower head, Makes a great little slingshot. Then kids will know that they can take this leaf, they can chew on it, and they can put it on their mosquito bite. It is a premier herb for reducing itching. Used topically in salves. Now is a great time to harvest the leaf, which is what the medicine is. Next one. Another one of the small greens is the early dock leaves. So this is what you have to watch for. This is August, right? This is the seeded head of the yellow dock that's standing out. Looks like something you want to go pick and put in your ornamental dried flower arrangement. And it works pretty good until all the seeds fall off. But this is the plant. This is what follows that. Right, and this is all you're going to see in the early spring when you want that leaf for your spring greens. This is an edible. This is a vitamin and mineral rich leaf. You can make your early spring greens, your small greens, vinegar. You take the plantain leaf, you take the dock leaf, you take some of these next ones we're going to get to in a minute, and you put them all in a jar of fresh, into a jar of apple cider vinegar. You can even put in, if you're looking for extra calcium, you can put in an eggshell. And you let that sit for a couple of days, and then you strain it out, and you have a calcium-rich, mineral-rich vinegar to eat, to work as an auxiliary supplement to whatever strategies you're doing for mineralizing your body. Very important to get multiple sources of calcium. And the vinegar chelates the minerals right out of the herbs. The eggshell will come out limp. It's really kind. But if you have chickens, don't use farm fresh eggs. You have them be a couple days old, because it explodes. It's not pretty. So have the eggshell be a couple days old. Okay, the root of this plant, which you want to harvest more in August when it looks like this, there's often two medicines in plants, and you have to pay attention to where you are in the year. Okay, yellow dock root is a wonderful liver herb, hepatic herb, right? It's useful for promoting liver function so that the liver has a better idea that it has stored iron in itself, and then it will put the iron back in the red blood cells. So as one of the offsets for people who are anemic, yellow dock root supports liver function to bring down this anemia picture. It's what we call an alterative herb. Another herb speak word. It means blood cleanser. Didn't know your blood was dirty, huh? Yeah, that's like a old-timey kind of concept, is that your blood must be dirty, therefore we should remove it, And so they would bleed people because of that. In herbalism, what we do is we support the organs of elimination, which are the liver and the kidneys, the lungs, the skin, as a way to get the trash out, right? So yellow dock root, but you pick it at the end of the season. Those of you who are medicine makers need to note where the yellow dock is growing. Go back there when it's nice and dry in that area. Don't pick the yellow dock from the gully where the leaves are big and rich and it looks like it has a lot of water, because when you dig that root, it'll be very pale yellow. Whereas if you go up the hill to where it looks like nobody lives because it's so dried out, and you dig that yellow dock root, it'll be dark yellow, and it will be much more medicinal. So you got to know what season to pick your herb, what part of the plant to pick, how to medicine make it, and where the quality is. Next slide. Small green still. You know this plant? Cleavers? And I like this slide over there on the right because it shows how it just grows up. It's the plant that when you throw it at someone, it kind of sticks to their shirt. It's great. This is a plant that you have to pay attention. Early spring. It's going to be there in your nitrogenous, wonderful garden soil. It will be happily growing. But come midsummer, it's gone. It's toast. And even if you manage to pick it and you try to dry it, it's so succulent, kind of wispy, nothing in it, that when it's dried, it's kind of, there's nothing left with it. So for me, in maintaining a pharmacy, I need to make a fresh plant extract at the moment at which it's happening in the garden. So I need to pay attention to that. Make a fresh plant tincture or juice it and make what we call sucus or juice. Preserve that in ice cube trays. This plant is a marvelous lymphatic. There was a moment earlier today that they said I was going to talk about cold and flu. Well, here it is. The cleavers is a wonderful lymphatic for swollen glands. So when you get sick and all of a sudden your glands get big, it's because your immune system's really working hard in there. And what cleavers does, taken freely, if you have a tincture, you're going to take a teaspoon 4 or 5 times a day. That's kind of a lot. If you're going to have a sucus, you can take a couple ice cubes at a time. And that's really going to, make you pee, which is okay, and also going to drain down those nodes. So this is a plant that I use a lot. Respiratory infections, urinary tract infections, I'm giving to people in fairly large doses. So if I miss my spring moment, I'm fried. I'm buying it from somebody else. Next slide. Yeah, sorry. Isn't that a great picture?
Yeah.
This plant, this is a funny little plant. I've seen them where they're like that big, and then I've seen them where they're like this big, and it's about kind of the ground that it's in and how rich the soil was. This is a plant that's really another one of those, if you miss it, you're done for the year. And, Capsella bursa is a very useful hemostat. So aerial parts on this. It was aerial parts, of course, on the cleavers too. I've failed to mention that. Because there are no roots on cleavers, you can't ever find them. But here it's aerial parts. So everything above ground, even if it's blooming, that's fine, the whole banana. And that's going to be made into a fresh plant tincture, which, by the way, means just taking the herb, chopping it up, putting it in a jar, and covering it with some booze. Now, we have booze, and then we have medicinal alcohol. And so, we have, there really is, where it's like a really high proof, and you get into fancy mathematics with making medicine. But you could just make this, with brandy. You could make a fresh plant tincture of this. You're soaking it in brandy for a couple of weeks, being sure everything's submerged. And then you would have something that would stop hemorrhage. Now, I know that doesn't sound completely handy, because how many times do you hemorrhage? But menorrhagia, heavy menstrual bleeding, or any other kinds of, you can use it topically to astringe. You could use it internally for internal bleeding. Handy. Next slide.